HubSpot makes impossible growth impossibly easy for their customers. And here's the perfect example. Morehouse College needed to reach new students with fresh, engaging content. But with a massive 900-page website, even the tiniest updates took 30 minutes to publish. Breeze, HubSpot's collection of AI tools, helped them write and optimize their content in a fraction of the time. The results? 30% more page views, and visitors now spend 27% more time on their site. If you're ready for impossible growth like this, you can visit HubSpot.com. Good morning, everybody. Today's Tuesday, July 29th. I'm John Weigell with Mark Dent, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. From sunken soccer fields in Cairo to high-tech cooling systems in Qatar, sports stadiums are getting creative in the fight against extreme heat. So how are architects combining ancient wisdom with cutting-edge technology to potentially protect players and fans from climate change as it gets increasingly dangerous to play sports outside? We'll get to that in a bit, but first let's give the hits and headlines in business and tech. Starting us off today, struggling Beyond Meat's Hail Mary mycelium-based steak fillet, which is a mouthful, and which one Redditor said kind of looks like a Beyond Burger shaped like a steak, launched in 5 U.S. restaurants this week. It bleeds like the real meat, but it's a mashup of fungi, fava bean protein, and avocado oil. And Mark, following up our conversation last week about Beyond Meat and what are they going to try? Who are they going to appeal to? Is this the answer that we were looking for?
I don't think that it is, John.
Mm-hmm.
I like how you just described it as a Hail Mary because maybe it'll work. Sometimes Hail Marys do. I think there might have been one last season in the NFL that was like really cool. So, it happens.
Sure.
And maybe that's just what Beyond Meat needs here, but it just seems like it's going to be, a slightly more expensive Beyond Burger, maybe a little bit better and more luxurious, of course, because it's a steak. But the same issue is there where if I'm like a person who likes steak, I'm just going to go order that steak.
Yeah, sure.
Especially at a restaurant. Maybe at home you can feel a little more like small C conservative and wanting to have like something less than just meat. But it just goes to show they're grasping for straws. I mean, they just are.
It's a fascinating decision because I think last week we talked about it and the head of, I think Impossible was weighing the option of doing a mix like real meat and fake meat type burger, and Beyond was kind of at a loss for ideas, but I guess this is kind of the latest line of ideas. We'll see if it works out for them. I really doubt it will, given your reasoning that you just said about if I go to a steak restaurant, I'm going to order probably a steak. So we'll see where this goes. If I see it on a menu, I'll let you know if I order it or not.
Oh, please let me know. I would love to see a menu of this in the wild.
Yes. Next, speaking of being in the wild, Detroit is all in on robots around the city. The Motor City is using mobile bots for various tasks. They pick up trash, cut grass, plow snow, and charge shuttle buses. There's also one that goes around advertising a robot fight club, which sounds really fun and interesting. So, Mark, we're getting to be a more robot-dependent society, and that's really coming up in Detroit right now. I'm sure it's not anywhere to the extent of like a sci-fi utopia situation, but still they're slowly integrating into our daily lives with these tasks, it seems.
I mean, Detroit is where the movie RoboCop was set.
Oh,
so
makes sense.
Yeah, like this is just, I think, the first step. I mean, you're talking about municipal government getting involved with robots. In another few years, maybe it's going to be Detroit with the actual RoboCop.
Yeah.
It's certainly possible.
Yeah, as destiny intended it, we'll see RoboCop once again.
Yeah, and reading a little bit about what these robots are being used for, one of them at least was being used to kind of clean up, beaches and things like that. But what's really interesting to me is that they have one that is being used to cut grass, but only along the highway. So I feel like that's like a perfect use of a robot, is to take like an actual person out of a dangerous situation,
right,
and put the robot in the dangerous situation.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I mean, I think it would be nice to have them doing things like that actual people would be afraid to do, or the job would be too tough for like a normal human being. So, I mean, that's exactly what they should be used for.
Yeah, for sure. Although I could certainly see people driving and being like, let me hit that robot. So that might be the only negative.
Next up, in some more tech news, there's a big deal coming in today as Elon Musk confirmed that Tesla signed a $16.5 billion chip contract with Samsung. The electronics company is set to manufacture Tesla's next generation A16 chip, and Samsung shares rose over 6% on Monday to get to its highest level since September of 2024 as a result. On to more tech, this time with a bit of cybersecurity. T, a dating safety app for women to post anonymously about men they've dated, was hacked after going viral and scoring the top spot among Apple's App Store free apps. The breach involves 72,000 images, including IDs, comments, posts, and more. And finally here, the superhero movie awards between Superman and Fantastic Four just went the way of Mr. Fantastic. Fantastic Four finished number one to end the weekend with $118 million, and this was the best performing weekend for a Marvel movie so far in 2025. They kind of needed the win. If you're like me, you're trying to figure out how artificial intelligence is changing the business world and our lives. Big Technology Podcast from reporter Alex Kantrowitz has the answers. The show hosts top leaders from places like NVIDIA, OpenAI, Amazon, and more, asking them where this is all really going. It also does fun news recaps every Friday with top-tier analysts. So if you want to be smart with your wallet, your career choices, meetings with your colleagues, and at dinner parties, you can listen to Big Technology Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. That's Big Technology Podcast. Okay, and for more headlines like that, you can come back to the show tomorrow and the next day, and we'll have more updates for you. But right now, we're talking about stadiums. Stadiums are facing a huge problem, Mark, in climate change. And over the past few years, we have definitely seen stadiums in, for example, the World Cup in Qatar and other places have to kind of change schedules and implement other measures so as to not have players play in insane temperatures. So what's going on with stadiums and heat in general, and how are we trying to pivot here?
You know, you mentioned the Qatar from the World Cup now in 2022, which I think that the FIFA gave them the World Cup in like 2010, 2009, like, many years before. And it was like basically even odds whether that World Cup would happen because people would wake up and be like, how are you going to have a summertime tournament played in Qatar? And of course, they moved it to the fall, so it wasn't quite as hot. Mm-hmm. But, they had to literally have these sort of like AC type of systems cooling the field there in Qatar. And it was seen, some of what they did is a little bit of a waste, of course, because it's like you're kind of just air conditioning the outside. But a lot of these new stadium designs have had some innovations that take from older techniques that aren't like these really just energy wasting kind of ways to keep things cool. As Fast Company pointed out in a recent story, it's happening all over the world.
Yeah.
And there really are some really neat, innovative things that they're doing now to stay naturally cool for these types of sports.
Yeah. For example, in Cairo, the stadium over there, it's a soccer field and its seats, more than half of them are kind of sunk into the ground, which takes advantage of natural cooling. We have stadiums that are doing roof insulation, like Allegiant Stadium in Vegas. We have stadiums that are trying perforated systems to kind of allow more air to enter the stadiums. And like these are for those summer sports and for those outdoor sports that really just can't get away from the sun.
Yeah, for sure. And one example that they had in there was Austin's Q2 Stadium, which is home for their MLS team, which is a fairly new franchise and a fairly new stadium. And they've used this system to have more of a natural airflow for it. They have mesh seats instead of plastic seats, which I think is a really smart idea. Mm-hmm. And the stadium is basically shaded for the seating, but the field itself is still in the elements, which is how soccer is supposed to be played. This is both kind of like a new example of something because you haven't seen it in a while, but it's actually somewhat of a duplicate of what the Dallas Cowboys did at their stadium called Texas Stadium way back in like the 1960s, 1970s. They covered the seats in shade and away from the elements, but they had the field exposed. Soccer, baseball, in the US, those are two sports that are played during the summer, and those are two sports that are best played outside. In the case of soccer, it's basically mandatory to be played outside. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
Right.
There are quite a few domed stadiums in baseball, but they're kind of looked down upon with good reason because going to games in domes is really boring, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So it's like these techniques are they're becoming a must.
Yeah, they really are. And I think a lot of these cities are trying to find ways to build new stadiums that don't have to use excessive amounts of electricity to power like a giant HVAC or AC unit to cool the stadium, because that's just not practical financially or for the environment. But you were saying kind of before we started up here that a lot of cities and a lot of countries are kind of due up for a new stadium. And we're seeing across the US, as we spoke about previously, actually, that a lot of stadiums are now being built. I guess this is a perfect time to implement these sort of tactics in building these new stadiums.
It totally is. The last kind of great stadium boom was in like the mid 90s to late 90s. They essentially happen every 30 years. Like there was a bunch of like mid-century stadiums built in the 60s and the 70s. Then you had like a newer kind of development, like I said, in the late 90s. And now we're in the mid 2020s and heading for the late 2020s. I think we all want to be stuck in time, but we are headed that way. And so are sports stadiums. And these franchises in the US, they always want to make deals with local governments, whether it's like a municipal or like a state government, to get a portion or sometimes almost all of the stadium subsidized. And for them to really kind of sweeten that deal, to really like make voters more okay with paying for these stadiums, because everyone knows they're not really a good investment. That's well known now. By having in these things, like it's like, oh, well, we have these new super technological green technology systems where we won't use HVAC all the time, where we have like this natural air flowing cooling system. Those are like perks that both can save a little bit of money and also make them more appealing to like local governments and to people who live in those types of cities.
Yeah. And at the end of the day here, I think that these stadiums can only really do so much, especially if they're located somewhere like Qatar or Egypt, because I mean, it's just going to be hot every day, regardless like what you do.
I mean, they have to play at night still, like in that Cairo stadium they were talking about. And that's probably where baseball is headed. I mean, there obviously are way more night games than day games anyway.
Definitely.
But even in like the Midwest, where it used to be fairly temperate during the summer, it's like, yeah, like night games, almost the only choice.
Yeah. As climate change rolls on, like these is something that we're going to see probably as a shift in the sports world for many, many years to come, is like more games at night, more new stadiums with these advanced capabilities. We just have to move that way in order to watch the games we want to watch.
Yeah, and whatever it takes to avoid the dome. That's what I say.
Yeah, no dome.
It's just no fun for a baseball game to be in a dome.
Agreed. Does the home run just hit the ceiling or something? Is that what happens at the dome game?
That would be awesome. But that should count as a home run if it does.
It should.
But I have a feeling it just counts as a foul ball.
I'd still love to see it. Maybe I'll look up some videos after this.
Seriously.
All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of HubSpot Media. Our editor is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. Go sign up at thehustle.co/email and follow us on Instagram at thehustledaily. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey everybody, I've been listening to this great podcast lately. It's called Latinx in Power, hosted by Thaisa Fernandez, and it's brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. So Latinx in Power is a podcast that features interviews with top-level executives, entrepreneurs, and innovators from Latin America, aiming to demystify the tech industry by providing listeners with an insider perspective and insights from Latin American leaders who have succeeded in their fields. A lot of great episodes on this one. My personal favorite recently was an episode with Isabel Alvarez, who is a graphic designer that designs cookbooks. She has 15 years of experience blending editorial design, branding, and experiential design. She really views design as a catalyst for meaningful social change, so I think this is a great episode to get you going with this show. You can listen to Latinx in Power wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, look, side hustles fail when they consume all of your time. I mean, every single bit of it. The pros, though, work smarter with AI doing all the heavy lifting. To help you out, we just dropped the Side Hustle Accelerator database. You can search your exact problem for your side hustle, grab the perfect prompt, and get results. If you're struggling with marketing, content, and customer service, it's all solved in just seconds. This isn't just another tool, guys. It's your unfair advantage in a spreadsheet. So stop asking AI the wrong questions and start scaling with what actually works. You can get it for free in the link in our show notes. And you can stop right now, actually. Why don't you take a look down at those show notes and tap the link? You don't want to sleep on this.